We are not formally educated in any of the topics we will be discussing in this podcast. Neither are we claiming to be experts by any means. These are our opinions, and none of it is intended to be taken factually. I would also like to state that this podcast contains strong language and humor that might offend. Listener discretion is advised. In this podcast, we dive into the hidden mysteries of everyday life, those strange, quirky, and sometimes baffling questions that most people don't even think to ask. From the unexplained phenomenon right under your nose to the odd facts buried in the back of your mind, we're here to explore the curious corners of the world around us. Whether it's religion, spirituality, or science, they all have something to say about who we are, where we came from, and the powers of the universe. The truth has to be somewhere in between. Welcome to the Riddles of Reality.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the Riddles of Reality podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Jaden.
And today we are going to talk about
Neanderthals.
I don't know if any of you guys have done the 23andMe DNA testing. Jaden and I both have. There is a section where it compares your DNA to Neanderthal DNA, and it gives you variants. Out of 7,462 variants they test, they'll give you a number of variants that you have. For my 23andMe, I have 226 variants that trace back to the Neanderthals.
I have 286.
According to this, it's saying less than 2% of our DNA came from the Neanderthals. So what we can understand in history, the Neanderthals, according to scientists, were our closest relative. They died out about 40,000 years ago. Researchers believe it's due to climate change. It could be their violent lifestyle. Apparently, they were very violent creatures. Disease, or they had some fertility issues. So basically what science is saying that 60,000 years ago, humans met Neanderthals, they interbred, and that's how we end up with Neanderthal variants today. What I was talking with Jane about before we started recording this podcast and when we decided to talk about Neanderthals, I don't even think that Neanderthals are any different from humans. I don't even think they're relative. I think they're just one and the same. And whether it be evolution or culture or who the hell knows what, I honestly don't think that there's any true difference here.
Do you have it on both sides, your mom's and your dad's side?
23andMe's telling me it's one parent more so or the other. Did they distinguish that for you and yours?
Yeah, it says I inherit variants from both of my parents.
So when I was looking at mine, it's saying I get it more from one parent than the other. And then it's comparing, it does a marker test, and there's some where it matches and some where it doesn't. But what was making me laugh about this is if you've ever had 23andMe, it'll tell you about like where specific traits come from. So it'll say, hey, you're more likely to have dark hair or dark eyes or something like that. And it's saying the Neanderthals have influenced your DNA. So according to my Neanderthal DNA, I have a worse sense of direction, which I don't think is true at all. I think I have a pretty decent sense of direction, that I'm a better sprinter than a distance runner. I'm less likely to prefer salty foods over sweet foods, and I'm more likely to sweat during a workout. Who doesn't sweat during a workout?
Yours are like funny. Mine just seem normal.
What are you saying?
I'm more likely to experience more itchy mosquito bites, more likely to have an apple body shape than a pear body shape, have more dandruff, and I'm less likely to have stretch marks. Yours are like a track star.
Yeah, I can tell you for what that I am not a track star.
Yeah, for majority, mine are all physical. Yours were more like actual, like a personality trait thing.
So when Jaden and I were doing some research for this podcast, we got to take a look at bone comparisons and how the skulls and the rib cages and everything differ. What were you looking at?
They're broad. Their rib cage is really broad. Obviously, their skull is larger too.
Yeah.
For what?
Maybe to protect because your rib cage is used to protect your inner organs. Maybe it's just because they fought more. They were a violent species.
They were short, though.
Yeah. Somewhere it said the tallest Neanderthal they ever found was 5'10". And they were saying the male Neanderthals averaged in height between 5'4" and 5'5", and the females were 5 to 5'1".
Oh, it does also say, though, because they also have shorter legs and arms than we do. It's presumed to conserve heat because apparently they survived a couple ice ages, from what I read. But then the last one, the big one that we can't find anything on, is the one they died out in.
They could talk. They were an intelligent species. I think that when we think of Neanderthals, everybody's thinking about
A caveman.
a caveman who all they do is make sounds to each other.
Right.
And when they get pissed off, they just start fighting. But they actually did have a language. They had great capabilities. So keep in mind, they made fire. They used tools. There's evidence that they created jewelry and art.
Do you think we could communicate with them?
I feel like we would have had to be able to communicate with them if we interbred with them.
I wouldn't take anything off the table, Sarah.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I'm just saying because it is weird how the depiction of a Neanderthal is like a caveman with a leaf over himself.
Yeah.
You know, his little piece of cloth.
Yeah, like some Tarzan shit.
Yeah, like running through the woods with like a club. Like,
yeah.
That's like what I picture when someone talks about a Neanderthal. I do fully think that they could speak and communicate with each other because I think every species can, but I think maybe we couldn't understand. So we took it as gibberish or just making their noises. I looked into them speaking too, and it was saying that scientists don't have any evidence that Neanderthals actually spoke. But they looked at like their jaw construction, like their jawbone, and they're like, they had the ability to speak, but we don't know if they did. I would find it really weird if they didn't.
Tapping on to that, in order for us to have variants, obviously they had to interbreed with humans.
Yeah.
What would be very disturbing to me, and honestly, I wouldn't put it past the human species because we've done really bad things to other human cultures. If they come across these Neanderthal and we're just like, I'm just gonna start breeding with this. I don't understand it and it doesn't understand me, but I'm just gonna.
No, that's what I mean.
That's disturbing. If we're taking it as gibberish, like we meet someone, we try to speak to it, it's gibberish. Oh, I'll take that as a yes. I'll take that as consent.
I don't know. Times were different.
I think what's also, and there's a lot of sad portions in our history. Like you think about the American Indians, and I told Jaden at one point, I do want to speak on the American Indians. At one point, whenever the English kind of came over and they started meeting the Native Americans and the different tribes, they did them dirty. They would go and destroy their homes and they would rape their women. And so I wouldn't put it past any of humanity to do that to another species since we've clearly already done it. And that's recorded in the history books.
No, hands down. I don't know if you've ever seen the series of the most inbred family in America.
Yeah. Where do they live? Virginia, West Virginia, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but they communicate with each other, but most of them just make sounds. It's not like words.
Yeah.
So I think Neanderthals were intelligent, but due to being severely inbred, I definitely think it counteracts some things. Do you think we would be a little bit more intelligent if we were missing?
No, because all of humanity's inbred. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's from a biblical perspective or from the mothership theory, we're all related.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we're just doomed from the start.
I feel like it, but I feel like I don't want to go into the spiritual realm because that's I don't know what season that's going to be, but I'm all hyped up for that. Okay, trying not to go into the spiritual realm. You know how we can only access 2% of our brain?
Yeah.
I think that we're actually more intelligent than we think we are, but that's because we can only access 2% of our brain. But we can only access 2% of our brain, in my opinion, for spiritual reasons, which I'm going to table that. But are you talking about you and I personally or just humanity in general?
I mean, it could be either. I don't know. It's hard because when I was looking into Neanderthals, they did the same things that we did. Like they hunted, they had little shelters, they did everything the same.
Yeah.
Their bones were just weird.
There is a documentary on Netflix. I don't remember what it's called, but it is a Neanderthal documentary. I watched some of it. I ended up just hopping off of it because it just got too boring. But they were a very violent species. They were violent amongst each other.
I did read that they were antisocial, so I guess that does make sense.
Yeah, they very much had the tribe mentality. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Stay within the tribe, don't go outside the tribe. But I'm wondering how the first quote unquote humans made their way into the Neanderthal tribes. Unless the other question becomes, did the Neanderthals just keep reproducing, and over time, we as humans came out of that. We got taller, our skulls became shorter, our bones are less thick.
Honestly, I don't think that they bred much at all. Obviously, they did because they were alive for
Yeah.
thousands of years.
Do you think they were doing it wrong?
Probably. No, I don't think they bred a lot. I don't think they were like rabbits, like flopping them out everywhere. I think their numbers were probably always less than ours, population-wise.
Think about how much death from childbirth occurred
True.
in those times. Like when you go and you start talking about childbirth in the medieval times, or even the earliest times of America, like even the 1800s, people died giving birth. Women died giving birth. And just thinking about these ancient civilizations just giving birth out in the wild,
Yeah.
I think a lot of them probably died during childbirth. I wonder if it was also their body makeup. Maybe it's that they couldn't reproduce very well because of, I don't know, their skeleton or something.
I mentioned this in a previous episode about Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucy, the hominoid. I think they're saying she was one of us, but she's also, look at her. This is what they are depicting her to look like.
So wait, do a quick backstory on Lucy.
Oh, have you not learned Lucy?
No, that was never something that was discussed in school for me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Lucy was found in 1974 at a site of Hadar in Ethiopia. And I'm reading this off of ASU's website. But I did learn this, but this is a refresher. So they found her forearm bone first, and I guess how that was structured, they immediately labeled her as a hominoid.
Okay.
They also found her skull, femur, some ribs, a pelvis, and her lower jaw. They had recovered 47 small fossil skeleton pieces, representing 40% of a hominin skeleton. How do we know she was a hominin? It says the term hominin is referring to a member of the zoological family, Hominidae. It encompasses all species originating after the human/African ape ancestral split, leading to and including all species of Homo sapiens, hominoids, etc. While these species differ in many ways, hominoids share a suite of characteristics that define them as a group. The most conspicuous of these traits is walking upright. How do we know she was female? Obviously, they found her pelvic bone. How did she die? No cause has been determined. But I did actually hear one theory, which, reading this, I'm not sure if it was true. But one theory was that she had died because of childbirth.
Ah.
It says one of the first clues is the conspicuous last of post-mortem carnivore and scavenger marks, meaning she probably wasn't killed by a predator. The only damage we see on Lucy's bones is a single carnivore tooth puncture mark at the top of her left pubic bone. This is what is called a perimortem injury, one occurring at or around the time of death. If it occurred after she died but while the bone was still fresh, then it may not be related to her death. They don't put an actual age that they think she was when she died, but they did say that her wisdom teeth were erupted and slightly worn, indicating that she was a full adult. The ends of her bones had fused and her cranial sutures had closed, indicating completed skeletal development. So I'm assuming over 25 at least.
Yeah.
And her vertebrae show signs of degenerative disease. So she was a young but fully mature adult. So probably late 20s, maybe early 30s. But they have her up on display and they're saying Lucy's dated to just less than 3.18 million years old. And that's how much of her body they found.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like enough to be able to label it as some kind of person.
So when you were learning about Lucy in school, because you said that was something that they really touched upon,
Yeah, I
were
feel like
they pleading the case for evolution there, and that's why they were talking about her?
they definitely talked about Lucy in evolution. Obviously, because reading what it said off of here, how they say it shows evidence of ape slash human in between that period,
Yeah,
which is like strange because they're depicting her to look like that. Doesn't that look
that looks
like a
ape.
Neanderthal? Yeah, but also like a Neanderthal. Because you've seen like a
Yeah,
Neanderthal?
yeah,
They look like an ape too.
yeah. With the wider
The brow bone.
brows. Yeah.
Yeah, the brow bones and the face is wider, more round. I think we might just have it wrong. Once again, everything we know is a lie. I
Yes.
think we just have it wrong here somewhere. I definitely think that we probably share some kind of traits with an ape. Just stand next to an ape and be like, how can we not? Like the standing upright. If a gorilla's back is turned to you and he's a little while far away from you, you might think it's a man standing right there. You know what I mean? They're kind of similar. Yeah, I definitely think we share traits with an ape. I'm not really thinking we morphed from them, but we probably share traits. Humans are sick. They probably bred with an ape at some point and got some of that DNA.
Do you think that's even possible though? Because from what we know scientifically, we can't interbreed with different species. We can't go breed with, say, for example, a horse. That just doesn't work. That's not a thing. Do you think we could have done that?
Probably.
It's
Look at
close.
this. Someone bangs an ape, you get a Neanderthal.
That does make some sense because the Neanderthals were only about 5 foot tall, and an ape's not going to get much taller than 5 feet if they're standing.
Yeah.
That is
And
creepy.
you know, it must have happened at least 2 times.
Humans are sick.
Banging each other.
See, that's where that's where I don't think we're actually as intelligent as we think we are. Because if we have some dumb fucks walking around fucking animals, fucking apes, getting them pregnant and out pops something in between, that's just gross.
I think so.
Humanity is just
Exactly what
gross.
happened.
We are so beyond fucked up.
I didn't even think that till we started talking out loud. Now it just makes sense.
I'm actually really disturbed.
I am too, but I feel like there was worse things in history.
According to the Bible, we all came from 2 people. And you have to think about that. And I've thought about this. I feel like I thought about this also as like a child, like growing up in the church. You have Adam and Eve. They had children. And for them to continue the human race, the children had to breed with each other and so on and so forth. The other thing too is, so when you start getting into like the story of Noah's Ark, remember Noah's Ark, the entire world was so evil that the Lord wiped it out, and the only people that were left were Noah and his family. So we started from scratch again. So we all came from not only Adam and Eve, but we came from Noah and his family as well. So regardless of how we want to turn the story, if we're looking at it from a scientific perspective or even from a biblical perspective, we're all related. Love each other.
I've thought that before, but it was always one of those, what if we're all related? I'm really starting to believe this banging an ape and you get a Neanderthal thing. Why has no one looked into that?
I'm sure they have. I just wonder if everybody just kind of
Covered it up because they were like,
Maybe.
oh my God.
Yeah, maybe. Too embarrassing
Oh
for the
my
human
God.
population.
Maybe they didn't want to create or partake in incest. Maybe the earliest people were like, no, I will not bang my cousin. Or no, I will not bang my sister. And they were like, but this ape over there, don't we think? And then we get Lucy.
Do you think that it was the mothership people? They crash landed, they saw everybody banging. They
It
didn't want to
could've
do it to
been.
each other, so they tested it out on the
Oh my
closest thing
God,
that looked
maybe
like a
they-
human. Bang, new species.
That's what just happened.
You're welcome.
That's how we got here. And that's why we're fucking invasive. We land down here and start banging things.
You know what? That makes more sense than anything scientific that we have read. We're connecting the dots here. We came from a mothership. It crash landed. We saw all these animals banging. We wanted to give it a try. Didn't want to try it on each other, so we tried it with everybody else.
I'm telling.
And then
I'm
we got
telling
results.
everyone. The further we go, or as we keep creeping this line of history, the mothership theory is somehow is the missing link to everything.
You know how you were saying we're doing it wrong?
Yeah. Were you thinking about it?
No, I'm thinking about it in relation to this. You're saying we crash landed here. We saw everybody else doing it. Think about an alien species arriving on a planet that they don't know anything about. They don't
That's
know
what
what's
I
going
mean. And we
on.
look around and seeing other things doing
Yeah,
it. And
let
we're
me-
like, yeah.
You stick that in there and let
Yeah.
me give it a
Like
shot.
maybe we weren't meant to do that. I don't know if you've ever seen, and I'm not saying I think this is how we should be doing it, but Scary Movie, the funny versions of it.
Yeah, I love those movies. They're funny.
Yeah, the one with Charlie Sheen and the aliens. Have you seen that one? They're like on a farm. And
It's
there's
been a
aliens.
long time since I watched Scary Movie.
Okay, the aliens land there and they're like shoving their finger in Charlie Sheen's mouth
Yeah.
and just like feeling around his mouth. It's like real awkward, or touching his lips or something. It's really funny. And then the other alien turns around and pees out of his finger. Puts his finger up like this and just starts peeing out of his finger.
Ew.
I don't know why, that just made me think of it.
I feel like I blocked that out.
I mean, it was like a fucked scene, but I'm not saying that's how we should be doing it, but we don't know.
But how else would we procreate?
Who knows? We fucked up our DNA so bad since we landed here that who knows? Things might have moved, shifted.
I'm still pegging that females are supposed to be 8 feet tall. I still strongly believe that the female species is actually supposed to be very large. It makes sense in the rest of nature.
Maybe one gender landed here on the mothership.
If you think about it, the Neanderthals, it was clearly stated that they were 5 feet, like 5 feet flat. And I'm sure that was a very strong DNA link, right? So even if you have someone breed with them that's 8 foot tall or maybe even 7 foot tall, you're not going to get the 7 foot tall result. You're going to get the stronger variant. Over time, you just continue to shrink.
Have they ever found a female Neanderthal?
Yeah, they're about 5 to 5'1". That's small. The tallest Neanderthal was a male. He was 5'10".
They found a female though?
Yeah, they've found like colonies of them. I don't remember where the documentary on Netflix was located.
It
but
says they found a female Neanderthal skull in a cave in northern Iraq. Her skull was flattened to less than an inch thick, crushed by rocks.
yeah,
What?
that's crazy.
75,000 years
Maybe
old.
it was, I thought it was somewhere in Asia, but maybe it was Iraq that they were digging up. But they went into this cave and there were so many Neanderthal remains. Like you could just tell this is some place where they lived and they all just died in this cave. But they were pulling out males and females alike.
Now this one looks human.
Yeah, they look more human than apish. If you look at any scientific
No, they
renderings,
do, but they have traits.
yeah, like they
But
have
it's
the thicker brow.
It's the brow bone.
Yeah, it's the brow bone and they don't have a chin. They don't have much of a chin. That's what's very distinguishing.
You know what I'm a little confused on?
What?
And I'm bringing Lucy back into this. You saw the depiction that they made of her. I think she was more Neanderthal than human.
What if
like.
she was just a different species of ape, though?
Here's the thing. They're saying that she was 3.18 million years old.
Okay.
Like they're saying her body was 3.8 billion years old. And Neanderthals lived, from what I looked up, around 40,000 years ago is when they disappeared. Or supposedly went extinct. Whether they just kept breeding with us and faded, like their DNA faded into ours, essentially killing off their separate species and merging with us.
Yeah.
But also essentially killing off our species too and becoming what we are now. I don't know, that time seems weird.
This is what I think. I think that Lucy was part of a different species, and she's the only one that we've found because she's so freaking old. We were also looking up, there's also another quote unquote human species called the Donsonians, or what was it?
Oh,
Was it Donsonians?
Denivers or Denis?
Devonians, something like that.
Yeah,
But
I didn't really look at them.
part of me is wondering if it's just that we had different human characteristics. Just us humans, we all have different skin tone, different hair color, everybody's built different, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I'm just thinking that we were all just human. We're all interconnected. It's just that we're all different. Some of us have maybe bigger skulls or wider rib cages, and we just can't make the distinction because we don't find anybody with those features anymore because maybe that culture died out.
I think everything was probably banging back then. And I think we got some interesting creatures out of it. Honestly, who's not to say that we weren't banging an ape? Seriously, like that. I feel like if we actually were and they found like evidence to support that, I don't think they would tell us. I don't think
No?
they would tell us we were banging apes.
Do you think that's too shameful for the human
Yeah.
culture to
Yes.
admit?
No, I do. Same thing, like all the theories that just make sense with some things. And I'm not talking like a conspiracy. I don't know if you've ever just went down into like a wormhole of something random and it's like this was unsolved. There's no real answer to this. And you start thinking about it and you're like, why is this answer not anywhere? You know what I mean? But whenever you actually think about it, they don't tell us everything. Point blank period, we're not told everything. The government has had aliens for how long, and they just recently finally told us that they had aliens.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Kind of scary that they told us, but you know, like they kept it a secret for so long and then they finally released that we have them. They don't tell us everything. So I think if they were to actually find out that, oh my gosh, these genomes are adding up to us just banging monkeys.
Yeah.
And that's why we had so many fucked up versions of a human. And even if we build on what you're saying of like, if Adam and Eve were the first people here ever, I think that Neanderthals and everything were also people. I do. I don't think that they fell into a separate category. I think
I agree.
they fall under the label of a human, even if they just looked a little bit different. They walked on two legs. They communicated. Their bones side by side. If you didn't know what a Neanderthal was, you wouldn't know the difference.
Yes.
You'd be like, oh, that was just a short and stocky guy. You would never know. I think they were people. So if Adam and Eve were the first people here and they were reproducing, they were having kids, maybe they couldn't produce fast enough, you know? Because there's only select few. Pregnancy's 9 months. That monkey could help with the process. It sounds bad, but I feel like people need to be like a little optimistic about things, you know? 'Cause I don't think they would tell us that. If they actually had evidence of it, I think they'd be like, burn any fucking record that we did that and don't tell the people that we did this.
Do you think, though, if that was the case, the humans back in that time definitely weren't as intelligent as we are now?
I don't think they were as intelligent.
Yeah, so they were just
because
like,
they had to
look.
learn everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to learn everything. You know, like, oh, this is grass. And then they're going around eating berries and they're like, huh, what's that game? Russian roulette?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
With the
playing Russian
berries.
roulette with the berries in the woods. They'll be like, I might buckle over in 5 minutes.
I just learned never eat the red ones.
No, me too. I don't even touch the red ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, same. So I don't think they were as intelligent as us, but I just think that's because they had to learn literally everything.
Yeah.
Like there's animal species. Which ones can you pet? Which ones can you not pet? Which ones could you eat? Which ones could you not eat? So I don't necessarily think they were dumb. I think they had intelligence to eat one berry. One of them buckles over after they ate the berry. I think they connected the dots of, oh shit, don't touch that one again.
Right? They see one of their party eat the berry and die. Well, we're not going to eat those.
Like I think they were like, oh, we learn from our mistakes. R.I.P.
Yeah. With that logic, though, it would make sense then for them to learn from the animals what to eat, where to find water, where to find shelter.
Yeah. It's kind of the same topic, but it's just like a little side thing. You know how humans have that thing where you can tell when something is AI usually?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's getting so realistic now, but if there's like a rendition of a human that's AI and what's it called? Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. So the definition for the uncanny valley is a feeling of unease or disgust that people experience when something looks human but isn't quite realistic.
I don't know if I could consider this Uncanny Valley, but whenever you look at a monkey's eyes, like in the eyes of a monkey, specifically gorillas and apes, like at the zoo, do you ever get that weird sense, like in a pit in your stomach, because their eyes are human? Like when you look at them and they look back at you, you're like, I'm looking at a human.
Personally, I can't say that I've ever just stared
Looked
at
in
one
the
in the
eyes
eye,
of a
but
girl.
now I feel
Oh
like I have
my
to roll down
God.
to the zoo to test this theory.
No, you do, because I've looked at a gorilla in its eyes, like locked eyes with one, and it makes your heart like flutter for a second. And I'm saying it's Uncanny Valley because that's pretty much what it feels like.
Maybe when it was looking at you, it had the same feeling. This thing
Yeah.
looks like an ape, but it's not an ape, and it's freaking me out.
Yeah, like you look at the gorilla and you're like, oh my God, I just looked at a human. Because then it makes you start looking at the gorilla a little harder, and you're like, you're just not talking because you don't want to pay taxes, aren't you? Right?
All right, we're going to wrap up this episode. Final thoughts on the Neanderthals.
Final thoughts to sum it all up. We were probably just banging things.
Love it.
Period.
Yeah, my thoughts, there were just different types of humans, and we labeled them as not human, but closely related to human. It's science just getting a little too funky, and we're all just different. And that's where I'm at with that. But guys, thank you again so much for listening. Continue to listen, continue to drop comments. We appreciate you. For now, I'm Sarah,
And I'm Jaden.
and this is Riddles of Reality.